Hi guys, today we will talk about Workload Identity Federation. So, with the help of Workload Identity Federation, we can provide our on-premises and multi-cloud workloads to access our resources on the Google Cloud, and we use federated identities instead of service account key. So previously, if we want to provide access to third-party applications which is running on your on-premises or on a multi-cloud like Azure, AWS, so we have to create a service account key and we have to provide the access via the service account key. But there the issue with the service account key is that we cannot verify that the app for the application which we have created the service account key is actually using that, because there is no way to authenticate that traffic is coming from that specific application or specific workload to which we have created the service account key. So with the help of workload identity federation, we can use this with the workloads running on AWS, Azure, like on-prem, Active Directory, and like GitHub, GitLab, and with any identity provider that supports OpenID, Connect, and SAML. Also, as we know, the application that which are running out of Google Cloud can use service account keys to access our resources, Google Cloud resources. But as we know, it is service account keys are very powerful credentials, and it is also present a security risk if we don't manage correctly. If someone gets your service account key, it can use it to access your resources inside a Google Cloud. So, with the help of Workload Identity Federation, we eliminate this risk and maintain the security and all. And with the help of Workload Identity Federation, we use IAM to grant roles to our external identities, and we can even provide direct access to Google Cloud resources, or we can provide access via service account impersonation. So basically, like you have a VM in your AWS which is running, and so we can provide a role to that specific VM. So if traffic is coming from that specific VM, so it can access our resources. It can directly access our Google Cloud resources, or if you want to use service account impersonation, we can also do that. So it will use service account to access our resources. So why not service account key? Basically, service account keys are very powerful and it will present a security risk if it is not managed correctly. And also, there is no way to verify the application holding that key has permission to use it. Maybe you have created a key for some other application, but somehow that key is now being used by one more application for which you have not allowed the access. And even a key is also without an expiration date and no guarantee like where it is stored or who has access to it. Maybe someone has stored in your public GitHub repo. He has maybe uh, push the code to public GitHub, so it will be accessed by anyone over the internet. So it is very security risk. So that's why it is not secure to use a service account key. Now, how workload identity federation works. So basically, it is a keyless application authentication for calling Google Cloud APIs. So there are some steps. So first of all, what will happen? First, having your application will authenticate your identity provider and receive account credentials. So suppose you have a VM running on AWS, it will authenticate to your identity provider. So here the identity provider is AWS, and it will give him a, account credentials. Then it will take this account credentials and it will call our security token service on the Google Cloud, and it will exchange that account credential to security token service which has been issued by your identity provider declared at AWS, and it will and our security token service will provide a short-lived Google Cloud Access token. So with the help of that token, it can access the resources in Google Cloud, and this access token can be used to impersonate a service account, or we can directly provide the access to our resources. We will see how to do that. After that, we there are some steps how to use all these things. So first of all, we have to create an identity pool in Google Cloud project. So if in which you want to in which project you want to create, you can go and create identity pool in which you have to organize and manage external identities like AWS, Azure, or your on-premises. And a project can have multiple pool and allowing access from a different external identity provider. And we will configure a one-way trust between your identity provider and the workload identity pool by providing relevant metadata about the provider. Like if you are using AWS, you will provide your account ID, and you can provide attributes like username, role name, or instance ID. We will see how we will do these all things in the demo. But basically, we create a one-way trust between your IT identity provider and your workload identity pool. Now, when an application attempts to exchange the IDP credentials, as we talked here, like it will first authenticate to our identity provider, like your application, and it will get account credentials. So when application attempts to exchange IDP credential, the security token service will be able to validate the credential is from a trusted provider before issuing an access token to the application. So service token service will ask workload identity pool at the background, like whether this is a trusted provider or not. Once workload identity pool will say yeah, it is a trusted provider, then only it will provide a token, short-lived token. And after that, we can create IAM policy to allow identities in workload identity pool to impersonate the service now. So this is the diagram which we can also use. So suppose this is your identity provider, like suppose AWS, and this is our workload identity pool which we have created in our Google Cloud. So first of all, we will create a one-way trust between in both. So here we will configure all these things in workload identity pool, in which we will provide the account ID and attributes which we want to use. After that, suppose any workload is running on this, suppose your application is running on a VM or anywhere in the AWS, it will ask identity provider, means AWS, to provide the credentials, account credentials, and identity provider will provide the credentials. And after that, your workload will give this specific credential to security token service which is running on Google Cloud. Security token service will ask workload identity pool whether this is the trusted provider or not. Once workload identity pool is say yeah, it is a trusted provider, I trust this, this is configured in my configuration, that AWS account, then security token service will return a temporary credential, or we can say token, to your workload, and then workload will again go back and it can impersonate a service account, or even it can directly uh, access your resources. So if it is impersonating a service account, so the service account has some permission. The same permissions can be used by your workload also. And for service account to use as a workload identity, we have to provide a role to it, workload identity user. So once that is done, then the service account will be used as a workload identity user, and our workloads from your on-prem or other cloud application can access our Google Cloud resources via service account. If you don't know how service account impersonation work, I have created a video also, you can check it out. And so this is the basic concept how it works. Now we even have an option to direct access the resources. I will show in the demo. In this demo, I will show you about AWS, how to create and then all these things. So let us go to demo and start. So I'm in my console now. So I'm in the workload identity federation. So let's create a pool first. So we'll create a workload identity pool. We will click on pool. We will get a name. So like we can give it AWS my pool. After that, you can give a description if you want to give, and we option of enable or disable. If you want to disable, we can do that also. Just it will create a pool, but it will be in disable state. After that, we will continue. After that, we have to provide a select a provider. So these are the three providers. So in this demo, I am going with AWS. But if you want to use some another, like you can choose OIDC or SAML if you want to use Azure or your on-prem. So I will go with AWS. I will cover remaining in next video. After that, we have to give a provider name. So I can give like my AWS account. After that, you have to give a AWS account ID. So it is a 12-digit number. So let's go here. This is my AWS account ID. I will just copy it and I will provide here. And so it is a creating a one-way relationship between both AWS and your Google Cloud. So you have the ID which you provide, it will create a connection between both. So make sure you are providing the correct AWS ID. After that, we will click on continue. After that, we have to configure the attributes. So attributes is like it will use this information to verify the identity. So like we have provided here AWS role. So if you are suppose you have a running a VM, and on that VM there is a specific role assigned, then only your VM can access this like your Google Cloud resources.
And if you want to give more mappings, you can come here. This is documentation for AWS. From here you can pick up like attribute if you want to provide for a AWS instance also. Suppose you want like the specific VM only can access your resources, so you can just come here, add mapping, and give a this name AWS instance and provide this value. So we have provided two mappings. One is AWS role. So when we create IAM policies, we have option to whether we can assign a AWS role in our IAM policy, or we can provide a AWS instance name. We will see how to do in this in a little bit time, but we have the option for attributes. So it will help to verify the identity and the roles which you want to provide to your uh, resources in the Google Cloud. After that, you can even add some condition if you want, like you can write a C condition in CL language. If you want like specific VM or specific role can access that resources, you can do that also. So only this thing we have to provide here: name and your AWS ID and the attributes, and then click on save. So our identity pool has been created. We can see it is enabled. This is the IAM principle. We will see how to use this. And after that, we have that option connected service account. If you want to connect service account, you can connect that also. So we will see all these things. Let's go to our AWS and create a VM. And from that VM, we will try to access our Google Cloud resources, and we will see how it works. So this is my AWS. So let me create a VM and I will show. So let's wait. So I have created two VMs, my VM1 and my VM2. So I will install Google Cloud CLI on these VMs, and after that I will show you how to do further things. So I have installed G Cloud CLI on these both VMs on my both VMs. So now I will assign a role to it so that I can use roles to access my resources on the Google Cloud. So I will go and create a role and assign to it. So I have assigned a EC2 role also. So I have like this is my role which I have created, ECS role. So now the main steps are, before accessing these resources, we have two options: whether we can directly assign the permissions to our resources, or we can use service account impersonation. So we will first try this data source access. After that, we will try the service account impersonation. So for this, you have to first of all use three. You have the three options to use this. We can use subject, or we can use by group, or we can use by attribute. So let's go with attribute only. So in this, we have to provide the project number, and we have to provide the pool ID, and we have to provide the attribute name and attribute value. So attribute name will be that which we have used while creating our workload identity pool. So if we go here, we can provide all these things. So this is our my project number. So we can just copy this and put it here. This is our project number, and we can get our pool ID from here. This is my AWS my pool, which I have created. And after that, we have attribute name and attribute value. So for the attribute name, if you remember, like we have used three attributes. If you don't remember, you can come here and click on edit, and from this you can click on edit mappings, and for the attribute we will copy this AWS EC2 instance, and we will provide AWS EC2 instance, and I have provided my instance ID also, which we want which will be the attribute value. For that I have taken from here. This is my instance ID, and this is my attribute. So now what we can do, we can just provide the access to this principal. So what will happen, this specific VM can access our Google Cloud resources when we provide the permission at the IAM level. So let's go here and go to IAM once, and we can add a grant access, and we will just provide here that principal which we have copied. So we have a principal, and like let's provide him some permission like compute admin. provided two permission, computer admin and computer network admin. And let's click on save. Now the main part is just it cannot access these all these things. So what we have to do now, we have to go to workload identity federation once again, and we have to go inside our pool, and let's go inside our pool, and we have to click on this grant access option. So what will happen if we click on this, we can see we have two options, whether we can grant access using federated identities, which we are using right now, or we can use service account impersonation, which will be seen in the next step. So let's go with this step only, and we will click on download config, and we have to provide the provider. So this is not a, like, if we click on download config, it is not any secret file or any information which can be leaked. It will only tell our instance how to reach Google Cloud resources, and what are the permission, like what are the options we have. So I have downloaded this file. Let's open it. So this is the file. So this is like, type is external account, audience is our, this is our like workload identity federation, uh, like and this is our token type and all this information. This is nothing like anything which can create a issue to us. So once we have copied this, we have to copy this. Once we have downloaded this information, we have to copy this information into our VM in our AWS. Let's go there. So I have copied this in my VM. If we do cat credential.json, so this is I have done. So now let's connect using like gcloud auth login. So you can check out this command from here also if you want to connect. The other two options to connect to this, whether you can use like export your credentials to your environment variables, or you can use, if you are using any library, you can use this option like Python, Node.js if you are using. As I'm using gcloud, so I will copy this command like gcloud auth login, and credential file will be my credential.json. So let's go here, and I will paste this command. So I have already used this, that's why it is showing me like this. But if you are using first time, it will not give you like already authenticated one option. I will click on yes, and now I have been authenticated to my Google Cloud. You may face an issue like sometimes what happen, it will give an error, like you are like it cannot able to find that region and all that. So if you face that error, you can come here, go to actions, go to instance settings, and click on this modify instance metadata option, and after that you can, instead of required, make it optional. After that it will work. So now we have provided the access to our VM, and we can set a project ID also. So let me set a project ID. So I will run gcloud config set project, and I will give my project ID. Now I can run any command which I have access. So like gcloud compute instances list. So see, I can see my instance. So this is my VM which as I have created before. So this is, it can showing me these all these things. You can see even I can run like network list also. So we can see we are not using any service account key now. We are just directly accessing our resources in Google Cloud. You can see even I can define my network list also. So this is the benefit of workload identity federation. So you are giving your specific VM or specific workload to access the Google Cloud resources, even if, with the help, if we use service account key. So as we know, if someone get access to the service account key, we cannot verify from where that request is coming, whether it coming from that application to which we have provided that specific service account key, or someone has compromised that service account key and using that thing. So we can see now, see, it is working fine for us. So this is my VM2. So let's do the same thing here, but on this VM I didn't provided any access. Let's see whether it works or not. So I have copied my credential file. Let me try to log in. So this is the error which it gave, what I'm talking about last time, unable to try AWS region. If you face this error, so what we have to do, like the same thing, let's do this for this VM also, for VM2. Let's go inside my VM to action, instance settings, modify instance metadata and make it optional. Click on save, and now let's run that command once again. You can see now I'm able to successfully authenticated with my that account. So right now I'm authenticated, but I cannot use anything. I don't have any authorization. I can only authenticate it, but if I try to run any command or anything, it will give me error. First of all, let me set my project ID. So let's run some command. So it is saying that some request did not succeed. I don't have any permission. Even I can authenticate, but I cannot. I don't have any authorization. So with the help of this, we can see that how we can access our resources with the help of workload identity federation. Even I can, if I want to provide, I can provide access to this VM also. So what can I do? Let's go back. Like even I can provide at that VM level, bucket level also. So just we have to create a IAM policy and allow our resources which we want to allow access. So this is a simple thing only. Now let's do one more thing. Let's do service account impersonation first so that we can see how that works. So for that direct resources we have checked, but let's now do for service account also and see how it will work. So let's go to our AWS pool once again, and I will click on grant access. And like we have checked this one access using federated identities. Now let's do this access using service account impersonation, and we have to select a service account. So let me select my test service account. After that I have to provide a attribute name. So these three attribute I have, so you can choose anyone. So let me choose this time AWS role, and I have to provide an attribute value. Providing the role, we can go back here and we can see how to provide a role. So here is some idea which they have provided. So like this we have to provide a role. If you want to use this, so we'll just copy this and go back here. This is the format, so we have to update some information here. So now here we have to update our organization ID, and here we have to provide our instance role which we have created. So for our instance or our organization ID, we can copy that from here. This is my, and I will paste instead of 000. This is my instance organization ID, and after that I don't need this. This is for if you are using a VM. I'm not using a VM role. I'm just using my AWS role. So I will remove this, and I have to provide my role name here. So if you remember, I can check my role name, what you have used. So this is my role name, ECS role. So I can come back here and provide ECS hyphen role and click on save, and it will again ask me to download a config file. So it will let's click on download config and see if there is any difference between both the config files. So this is my config file which now I've downloaded. In this it is using service account impersonation URL, which is this service account test, service account, all this. And this, and if my previous one, that is not required because we are using direct access. In this we are using service account impersonation. So let's use this file to access our resources. Let's go back to our VM and remove previous one. So I pasted my new credentials. So before we can access our credentials, we have to make sure that our service account have access. So if you come here and click on service account impersonation in the document, we can see that we have to provide a role to our service account. So it can run as a service account like workload identity user role. We have to provide this specific role. Otherwise, our service account will not work like which we want to use. So let's go back to our client. Let's go to service account first. and let's copy this ID, our test service account which we are using, and go to IAM. We will click on grant access. We will give our principal service account, and after that we will provide a role workload identity user role so that it can our services can impersonate this account. After that, which role we want to provide him, like we can let him provide compute only. So click on save. Now let's re-authenticate it with our new credentials. So I will run this command again, gcloud.login, and I have authenticated. You can see now this is showing me test service account also. And if we run gcloud config list, we can see this is our account which we are using right now, the test service account. So let's run gcloud compute instances list. So we can see, you can see this time it is working fine with the help of service account. So let's do one more thing. Let's provide him one more permission. Let's go inside it and let's provide it storage admin permission also. Let's see how it will work or not for storage admin. So we will provide storage admin and click on save, and let's go back and let's run gs util ls. So even we can see it is working for our buckets also. So like this, you can do that all the things. So it is basically impersonating that service account. So you even if you face any issue with the service account, you can just impersonate the service account by running that command. Like I think gcloud auth, gcloud config auth set impersonate something. This command is there. You can check it out to impersonate a service account. So basically, we have checked both the options which we have in service, like in our workload identity federation, and how we can use it. And it is a very wonderful service provided by GCP. So and so that we don't have to provide any service account keys to anyone. And even if you can check out these more things also in this is a very good document provided by Google to enable all the things. So if you go here, instead if you go direct resource access, you have the options to by attribute. We have checked the attribute option, but you can do by a subject also, like if you want to provide access to a specific resource. Then also you have an option to provide a subject. You can get a subject if you run, I think, gcloud config list. If you run this command, I think this is your subject. If you can use this subject also to provide to provide access to your resources. And for group, I don't have any information much now, like how can we use this because I have not used. But I know if you create a group like administrator group example.com in which many users are there, so they all can access this specific things. I think like this it can work. You can check it out and you can like play with this. And after that, I will try to create a Azure for Azure one also in the next video. And there are some advanced areas also if you want to use with REST APIs and all that. We will see this later on if I get a time. So if you have any questions or any suggestions or anything, just comment it down. I will try to help you. And in further videos, we will see pipelines, Kubernetes, and other document identity providers also. Okay, thank you very much. Let me know if you have any issues.